Hi everyone! Do you believe the devil exists? In today's video, I'm bringing you something that might shake everything you've believed until now. We're diving into the controversial manuscript by Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil. This isn't about religion, it's about the hidden codes of the mind and how 98% of people are being controlled without even knowing it. Before we unlock these secrets, please subscribe to help our channel grow. Also, check the description for the books I recommend and the free PDF to help you master your own frequency. Let's get started. Do you believe the devil exists? And more importantly, what are the chances that your life is currently being controlled by him? I'm not talking about religion here, and I'm definitely not here to give you a Sunday school lesson. I'm talking about a raw, clinical, and almost terrifying conversation that one of the greatest minds in success history, Napoleon Hill, claimed to have had back in 1938. You probably know Hill from his absolute masterpiece, Think and Grow Rich. That's the book that defined the 20th century for anyone wanting to get ahead. He spent 20 years interviewing the wealthiest, most powerful men in America, men like Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, and Thomas Edison, to find the formula for success. He was the man who taught us about faith, persistence, and having a burning desire. But there was a darker side to his research, a side so controversial and so explosive that his own wife, Annie Lou, forced him to hide the manuscript for over 70 years. Think about that for a second. Why would the man who wrote the Bible of success be forced to bury his next work under lock and key? It's because what I'm about to share with you today confronts the very foundations of how our world is run. It's not just a book, it's a manual on how the devil, or what Hill calls the negative energy of the universe, actually manages to keep 98% of people in a state of permanent failure. It challenges the school system, the religious institutions, and the entire structure of social power. It was considered so dangerous that it only saw the light of day in 2011, long after Hill and his wife had passed away. To understand why this devil might be running your life right now, we have to look at the moment Napoleon Hill actually met him. And no, it didn't happen in a church or a cave. It happened in the middle of a brutal, soul-crushing life crisis. Back in 1926, Hill was at the top of his game, but he got caught in a real-life nightmare. One of his close business associates, an editor named Don Mellett, was investigating deep-seated political corruption and organized crime in Canton, Ohio. Mellett was doing what most drifters are afraid to do. He was thinking for himself and exposing the truth. Because of that, he was assassinated. Hill, who had been working closely with Mellett, was suddenly a target. He received an anonymous phone call with a voice that chilled his blood, saying, "You have 1 hour to get out of town, or you're next." Now, imagine being the man who teaches faith and self-confidence to the world, and suddenly you are running for your life, terrified, with nothing but the clothes on your back. Hill fled to West Virginia and spent a whole year hiding in the shadows. He was broke, he was paralyzed by fear, and more than anything, he was drowning in shame. He couldn't understand how he, the expert on success, had become a victim of his own circumstances. He felt like a fraud. This is the part where we need to have a coffee talk moment. Have you ever felt that? That gap between what you know you should do and what you are actually capable of doing? You read the books, you watch the videos, you know the law of attraction, but when the pressure hits, you freeze. You feel like an invisible hand is pulling you back into a basement of doubt. That, my friend, is exactly what Hill experienced. He realized that all his knowledge was useless as long as fear was sitting in the driver's seat. One night, after a year of this walking death, Hill went for a walk in the dark, desperate for an answer. He was at the end of his rope, and according to him, he heard a voice, not a spooky Hollywood ghost voice, but a clear, commanding internal vibration that said, "This is only a time of testing. You are being forced to discover your other self." This other self wasn't a new person. It was the version of Hill that had zero fear. It was the version that lived in the 4D world of causes, not the 3D world of effects. This voice gave him a direct, crazy instruction. Go to Philadelphia tomorrow morning. There, you will find the help you need to finish your work. Hill didn't have the money for a ticket, he didn't have a plan, and he didn't have a single contact in Philly. But for the first time in a year, he decided to walk by faith and not by sight. When he got there, he needed $5,000, which was a fortune back then, to publish his next set of books. He went from office to office, person to person, and was rejected every single time. Door after door slammed in his face. Most people would have quit and said the voice was just a hallucination, but Hill went into a deep meditative state. He went inward to the 4D plane. Suddenly, a name flashed in his mind, Albert Pelton. He didn't know the man well, but he followed that intuition, and Pelton ended up providing exactly what he needed. But here's the kicker. The money wasn't the real victory. The real breakthrough was Hill's realization that the devil he was about to interview in his mind wasn't a guy with a pitchfork. It was the personification of the negative ego. The devil is the energy that occupies the space where faith should be. In this interview that forms the core of the book, Hill asks the devil how he manages to control so many people, and the answer is chillingly simple. I control 98% of you because I don't need to force you to do anything. I just offer you negative suggestions. The devil explained that he doesn't have the power to stop your thoughts, but he has the power to plant seeds of doubt. If you are a drifter, someone who doesn't think for themselves, someone who just follows the crowd, you are like an open field waiting for weeds. You hear a news report about a recession and you immediately think, I'm going to lose my job. You see a successful person and you think, I could never do that. The moment you engage with those thoughts emotionally, you've given the devil a key to your house. You've tuned your radio to the fear and lack station, and as long as you're on that frequency, you're under his thumb. Hill realized that the manuscript had to be hidden because it exposed the truth about our systems. Our schools don't teach children how to think. They teach them what to memorize. They teach them to obey authority without question. Our religious institutions often focus on the fear of punishment rather than the power of internal divinity. All of this creates what Hill calls the hypnotic rhythm. It's a mental groove that gets deeper every time you repeat a negative habit. Once you are in that rhythm, you become a drifter, a person who has no definite purpose, no self-discipline, and no hope of escaping the 3D loop. Think about your own life right now. Are you a drifter? Do you wake up and just react to your phone, your emails, and the traffic? Or are you moving toward a definite purpose? If you are moving through life without a clear direction, you are technically worshiping fear. You are letting the devil, that negative collective ego, run the show. The reason this book stayed hidden for 70 years is that the world isn't designed for people who think for themselves. It's designed for drifters. But the fact that you are listening to this right now means that your other self is starting to wake up. It means you're ready to see the invisible chains of the hypnotic rhythm and learn how to break them. We're going to dive deep into exactly how this devil uses the 6 major fears, especially the fear of poverty and the fear of criticism, to keep you small. And more importantly, we're going to look at Hill's tactical plan to outwit this energy and finally take back the steering wheel of your reality. Because once you understand the game, you can no longer be played. It's time to stop drifting and start creating. Now let's get into the most uncomfortable part of Napoleon Hill's interview with this devil, the 98% rule. During the conversation, the entity claims that he controls 98% of the human population. Take a second to let that sink in. If you're standing in a crowded room, statistically, almost everyone there is under some form of mental spell. And the devil's primary weapon isn't some grand evil plan, it's a state of being called drifting. So what exactly is a drifter? Think about a piece of wood floating in the middle of the ocean. It has no engine, no sail, and no rudder. It just goes wherever the tide takes it. If the waves are calm, it stays still. If a storm hits, it gets smashed against the rocks. It has zero say in its own destination. That is exactly how most people live their lives. They are drifters. They wake up not because they have a burning purpose, but because the alarm went off. They go to a job they don't particularly like because they have bills to pay. They eat what's available, they believe what the news tells them to believe, and they follow the path of least resistance until they die. The Devil explains to Hill that a drifter is anyone who allows themselves to be influenced by circumstances outside of their own mind. This is the ultimate trap of the 3D world. In our coffee talk terms, the 3D world is the world of effects. It's your bank account balance, the traffic on the I-95, your boss's bad mood, or the weather. If those things determine how you feel today, you are drifting. You are letting the mirror tell you who you are, instead of the other way around. The reason this manuscript was hidden for so long is that Hill explicitly points the finger at our institutions for creating drifters. He argues that our public school system is the greatest drifter factory ever invented. Think about your time in school. Did they ever teach you how to manage your thoughts? Did they teach you about the power of your other self, or how to manifest a reality from the 4D plane? Of course not. They taught you to sit still, memorize facts you'd never use, and, most importantly, obey the bell. They taught you to look for the right answer provided by someone else rather than seeking the truth within yourself. This kills critical thinking. It kills the other self. By the time a kid graduates, they're perfectly conditioned to be a cog in a machine. They are ready to be told what to do for the next 40 years. The Devil loves this. He says, I move in and take possession of the mind of the child before he has the opportunity to learn how to use his own mind. This is why we see so much lack and limitation in the world. It's not because resources are scarce, it's because the habit of drifting is passed down from parents to children, from teachers to students, and from pulpits to pews. Religion, too, is called out in the book. Hill explains that when a religious organization uses fear of hell or fear of punishment to control people, they are actually doing the devil's work for him. Why? Because fear is the frequency that opens the door to the negative ego. When you are afraid, you stop thinking. When you stop thinking, you start drifting. The drifter's life is defined by a lack of a definite purpose. This is one of Hill's most famous concepts, but here he gives it a darker twist. If you don't have a major goal that you are obsessed with, your mind is like an empty house, and in an empty house, squatters move in. Those squatters are negative thoughts, anxiety, and the hypnotic rhythm of the crowd. Let's bring this to a real-life American context. Think about the American dream as it's often sold to us. You go to college, get into debt, get a corporate job, buy a house, more debt, and spend 30 years trying to pay it all off while praying you don't get sick or fired. That's a scripted life. That's a drifter's map. If you are on that path just because you think you have to be there, you are drifting. You aren't using your 4D power to command the 3D world. You are just trying to survive the 3D world. The Devil admits that he cannot control a non-drifter. A non-drifter is someone who has a mind of their own and uses it for a definite purpose. They might fail, they might hit walls, but they never lose their rudder. They know that a temporary defeat is just a lesson from the other self. They don't react to the mirror. If their bank account is empty, they don't say, I'm poor. They say, this is a temporary 3D reflection, but my 4D reality is abundance, and I am moving toward it. This is the 4D versus 3D dynamic we always talk about. The 3D world is like a delayed shadow. If you move your hand, the shadow moves a split second later. Most people spend their whole lives trying to grab the shadow and move it by force. They try to fix their finances by working more hours at a job they hate, or they try to fix a relationship by arguing. That's trying to move the shadow. A non-drifter knows they have to move the hand, the mind, in the 4D plane. When the 4D cause changes, the 3D effect must follow. It's a law of the universe. But the Devil doesn't want you to know this. He wants you focused on the shadow. He wants you worried about the economy, the politics, and the what-ifs. He says in the interview that his most effective tool for keeping people in the 98% is the law of rhythm. anything you do or think repeatedly becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, it becomes a permanent rhythm. It's like a song that you can't get out of your head. If you spend 5 years complaining about how hard life is, you have created a poverty rhythm. Even if someone handed you $1 million, you would probably lose it or find a way to feel miserable again because your rhythm is set to struggle. This is why affirmations often don't work for drifters. You can say, "I am rich" 10 times a day, but if the other 15 hours of the day you are drifting in a rhythm of fear and reacting to your bills, the rhythm wins every time. You have to break the rhythm by waking up the other self. Hill's realization was that the devil is simply the sum total of all the negative energy and habits we've allowed to take root in our collective consciousness. He's the spirit of negativity, and the only way to beat him is to stop being a passenger in your own life. You have to take the wheel. You have to decide right now that you are no longer going to let the mirror tell you what's possible. The difference between being in the 98% and the 2% isn't money, status, or luck. It's the decision to stop drifting. It's the decision to have a purpose that is stronger than your fears. As we move into the next part of this, we're going to look at the 6 ghosts, the specific tools the devil uses to start the drifting process in the first place. But for now, I want you to look at your life honestly. Where are you just going with the flow? Where are you letting the world decide for you? Recognition is the first step to freedom. Once you see the chains of the drifter, they lose their power over you. Now that we understand what a drifter is, we have to look at the weapons the devil uses to keep us in that state. In the interview, Hill asks exactly how he captures a mind that was born free, and the answer is through the 6 ghosts of fear. These aren't actual ghosts, of course. They are mental shadows, frequencies of anxiety that haunt your 4D space, so you can never manifest anything good in your 3D world. The 6 major fears are the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of illness, the fear of loss of love, the fear of old age, and the fear of death. According to this negative entity, the 2 most powerful ones are the fear of poverty and the fear of death. Why? Because they trigger your basic survival instinct. When you are in survival mode, your brain shifts out of the creative manifestation frequency and into a high-stress reactive state. This is exactly where the devil wants you. In the US, we see this everywhere. We are a society obsessed with security. We stay in soul-sucking jobs because we are terrified of poverty. We don't start that business or follow that intuition because we are afraid of what people will say. That's the fear of criticism. Think about it. How many times have you had a brilliant idea, a real 4D spark from your other self, only to have it killed a second later by the thought, "But what if I fail and lose everything?" Or, "What will my neighbors think?" That is the devil whispering in your ear. He doesn't have to push you, he just has to offer the suggestion of lack or judgment. If you accept that suggestion and feel the sting of it in your body, you've just invited a ghost into your house. The ghost of criticism is particularly nasty in our modern world. With social media and the constant need for approval, we've become a nation of drifters who are terrified of being different. We dress the same, talk the same, and chase the same hollow goals because we are afraid of the sting of being judged. But here's the coffee talk truth. The 98% will always criticize the 2%. If you are being criticized, it's usually a sign that you've stopped drifting and started sailing your own ship. The devil uses this fear to pull you back into the crowd, back into the safety of the 98%, which is actually the most dangerous place to be. Once these fears take root, they lead to what Hill calls the law of hypnotic rhythm. This is a concept that will blow your mind once you see it in action. The devil explains that nature uses a rhythm for everything. The planets move in a rhythm, the seasons change in a rhythm, and your thoughts move in a rhythm. If you repeat a thought or a behavior long enough, nature takes over and makes it permanent. It becomes hypnotic. Imagine you are driving your car through a muddy field. The first time you drive through, it's a bit bumpy, but if you drive over the exact same tracks 100 times, you create deep ruts. Eventually, the ruts are so deep that the car steers itself. You don't even have to hold the wheel anymore. That is a hypnotic rhythm. If you spend years waking up with the fear of poverty, checking your bank app with a pit in your stomach, and talking about how expensive everything is, you have carved a poverty rhythm into your subconscious. You are now a drifter on autopilot. Even if you win the lottery tomorrow, the rhythm of your mind will stay in poverty mode, and within a few years, you'll likely be broke again. This is why 3D fixes never work for 4D problems. You can't change the car's direction while it's stuck in those deep mental ruts. You have to lift the car out of the mud entirely. The devil admits that he uses this law to make drifting a permanent state. He says, any habit which causes one to procrastinate, to put off reaching a definite decision, leads to the habit of drifting. Procrastination is one of his favorite tools. It's the slow-acting poison that keeps you in the 3D loop. You say, I'll start my meditation practice on Monday, or I'll look for a new career after the holidays. Every time you procrastinate, you are strengthening the drifting rhythm. You are telling the universe that your 3D circumstances are more powerful than your 4D will. And here is the most dangerous part of the book, the part Hill's wife was afraid of. The devil claims he uses the school system and parents to set these rhythms before a child even learns to think. In the US, we focus so much on fitting in and getting the grade that we never learn how to use our individual power. We are taught to fear failure, but failure is just the other self trying to teach us a lesson. By the time we are adults, our hypnotic rhythm is so focused on security and obedience that we don't even realize we are in a cage. But there is a way out. The devil confesses that there is one thing he cannot stand: definiteness of purpose. A person who knows exactly what they want and refuses to accept anything less is a non-drifter. Their rhythm is set to success or abundance. When a non-drifter encounters a ghost of fear, they don't run. They observe the fear, realize it's just a 3D shadow, and keep moving toward their 4D goal. This is where the law of attraction gets practical. You don't attract what you want, you attract what your rhythm is set to. If your rhythm is set to struggle, you will attract struggle even in the midst of opportunity. But if you use your other self to break the old ruts and carve a new path, a rhythm of gratitude, a rhythm of certainty, a rhythm of it's already done, then nature will take over and make that rhythm permanent. It's about taking the steering wheel back from the ghosts. Every time you feel that familiar anxiety about money or what someone said about you, you have to stop and say, I see you, ghost, but you don't belong here. My rhythm is set by my other self, not by 3D shadows. As we move into the final part of this, I want you to start identifying your own ruts. What are the thoughts you think without even trying? What are the fears that keep you from making a definite decision? We are going to learn how to finalize this interview and apply the 4D solutions that Napoleon Hill used to go from a terrified fugitive to the most influential success philosopher in history. It's time to break the spell of the 98% and start vibrating in the frequency of the 2%. Now we reach the most critical part of this journey. How do you actually stop being a drifter and finally outwit the negative force that's been holding you back? Napoleon Hill discovered that the only way to break the hypnotic rhythm of the 98% is to awaken what he calls the other self. In our coffee talk terms, the other self is simply your 4D identity, the version of you that is already successful, already healthy, and already financially free. This version of you doesn't know fear because it doesn't live in the 3D world of effects. It lives in the world of causes. While the drifter is always reacting to what's happening in the mirror, the other self is the one standing in front of the mirror, deciding what the reflection should look like. The devil admitted to Hill that his greatest weakness is a human being with a definite purpose. Why? Because a person with a clear, burning goal creates a new mental rhythm that the negative ego cannot penetrate. When you decide with 100% certainty that you are going to achieve something, you literally change your brain's frequency. You shift from the beta waves of stress and reaction into the alpha and theta states of creation. In that state, the ghosts of fear, poverty, criticism, death lose their power. They become like shadows in a room where someone just turned on a 1,000-watt light bulb. But how do you practically do this when your 3D life feels like a mess? Hill gives us the blueprint. First, you have to realize that every failure, every heartbreak, and every financial loss carries with it the seed of an equivalent benefit. A non-drifter doesn't see a bad day. They see a lesson from their other self. If you lose a job, the drifter cries and says, "Why me?" and starts vibrating in the frequency of lack. The non-drifter says, "Okay, this is the universe clearing the path for my true purpose," and stays in the frequency of abundance. One of the most powerful tools Hill mentions is self-discipline. Now, I know that sounds like a boring, technical word, but in the law of attraction, self-discipline is simply the ability to control your mental diet. It's refusing to eat the negative thoughts the devil offers you. It's like being at a buffet. The devil is the waiter offering you a plate of worry or anxiety. Self-discipline is simply saying, "No thanks, I'm only eating the it's already done plate today." Think about your American life for a moment. We are bombarded with reasons to be afraid. We see it in the news, we hear it in the office gossip, and we feel it when we look at our rising bills. To outwit the devil, you have to become a mental gatekeeper. You have to stop letting the 3D world dictate your 4D state. Hill suggests that we must move by faith, which is the other self's primary language. Faith isn't just hoping things get better. Faith is the spiritual certainty that the 4D cause is more real than the 3D effect. The devil also confessed that he uses time against us. He uses it to turn our small, drifting habits into permanent rhythms. But you can use time to your advantage too. By consistently choosing a new thought, by spending 5 minutes every morning feeling the relief of having your financial goals met, you are creating a new hypnotic rhythm. Nature doesn't care if the rhythm is success or failure. It will make either one permanent if you repeat it enough. So, here is your challenge for today. Identify one area where you've been drifting. Is it your career, your health, your relationships? Once you find it, make a definite decision. Not a wish, not a hope, but a decision. A decision is the kill switch for the devil's influence. The moment you decide exactly what you want and refuse to entertain the how or the what ifs, you have crossed the bridge from the 98% to the 2%. Remember, the devil isn't some external monster. He is the habit of drifting. He is the addiction to fear. And the other self isn't some distant god. It is the real you, the one who is currently listening to these words and feeling a spark of truth. That spark is your signal that the chains are breaking. Don't wait until Monday. Don't wait until you feel ready. The other self is ready right now. Take back your power, set your rhythm to victory, and watch as the 3D world begins to rearrange itself to match the command of your mind. You are the master of your fate. You are the captain of your soul. Stop being a passenger and start being the creator. Before you go, if this resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us reach more people who need to hear this. Also, don't forget to check the description for the books I've handpicked for you and the free material to help you stay on the path of the non-drifter. Keep your frequency high. Thank you so much for staying with us until the end of this deep dive into Napoleon Hill's most dangerous secrets. It's been a pleasure having you here, and I truly believe that if you apply this, your life will never be the same. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.